Today we're going to be talking about Joker, the new Philip Tom. What's his name? Todd Phillip. The new Todd Phillip film starring Joaquin Phoenix and Clown World. Is art imitating life, or is life imitating art? We're going to be talking about some real conspiracy shit today, as well as some archetypal hero, anti-hero concepts, and we're going to be talking about a new popular film set in the Batman universe. This isn't exactly a review or a critique of the film Joker. The only thing anybody really wants to say about it, or ask about it, want to know about, is does Joaquin Phoenix play the part well? Yes, he kills in it. He's very good at pretending to be a psychotic bozo in front of a camera. Okay? Now that that's been established, what are people saying about it? A lot of different things. Right-wingers are calling it leftist propaganda spun by the Hollywood elites, also known as Jews. Yeah, clown world is their term to describe the civil rights movement and everything that slants to the left of Hillary Clinton, okay, is considered radical, extremist, leftist, which is really kind of not true. This film is an indictment of the American mental health system. It's really an indictment of American society, you know. Is it propaganda, though? I don't know. There's always some subliminal programming going on in Hollywood. Warner Brothers produced this. It's not going to be some independent, edgy critique of the establishment. You know, how socialist do you think Warner Brothers can go? That said, there's always going to be neurolinguistic programming going on where they spend that kind of money that goes into these Hollywood blockbusters. They don't spend that kind of money for the sake of our entertainment. Okay, I mean, yes, they get money in return for it, but that's a different issue. The underlying message from these Hollywood blockbusters in the propaganda realm of it, it's just sheer materialism and consumerism. You know, a lot of movies are just hour-plus long advertisements for anything from cars to dolls to ideology. You know, sometimes it's flagrant nationalist propaganda, as is the case with American Sniper and Top Gun. So what kind of mind controls Joker? Well, if you ask people on the right, it's socialist propaganda. Right-wingers are saying it romanticizes murder, specifically the murder of the rich by the poor, the murder of the elite by the oppressed. Arthur Fleck isn't the clown that's inspiring the murder in the real world. That would be a different kind of Joker, okay, of a different variety of trump card. The Joker card, the wild card. Let's take a second to talk about the name Arthur Fleck. They named him the original Joker's name isn't Arthur Fleck. The original Joker's name is something like Joe Chill or Jack Napier. Jack Napier and Joe Chill are the names, the aliases that have historically been given to the Joker. Well, this guy, his name is Arthur Fleck, and I'm pretty sure that Todd Phillips named him this because it's contrary. It's dualistic. Okay, when you think of when you think of the name Arthur, you're gonna immediately think of who? King Arthur, right? King. It was a regality. The thing about Arthur as a king, he was a bastard son. He came from ambiguous origins. He didn't earn his kingship because that's not how kings are made. But he was the product of a illicit affair, let's say. You know, so his identity, his origin, has always been kind of a mystery. And that's the case with Arthur in this film too. You know, his bloodlines are ambiguous, whatever. His regality, it's questionable. And then Fleck, what is that? You know, a speck of dust, a piece, nothing. It's something to be brushed away, which is what he is in this film as a human being. He's human debris, and that's who he's set up to be. Okay, so the reason why I even saw this film, because I usually don't see fucking superhero movies. They don't interest me very much. But some right-wing talking heads are saying that because Hollywood is controlled by Jews, that everything we see or hear that comes out of Hollywood is communist globalist propaganda of some type to sell us on false narratives of anything from climate change or a global economy based on because they're hell-bent on world domination and enslavement of the sovereign citizen toward their own diabolical ends. That's how the radical extreme right, which is just basically a more honest version of the right, the alt-right. What's the difference? The difference is in the degree of honesty, really. If you get down to it, at this point, that's really what it is. At least Richard Spencer isn't lying about the ethno-national state that he wants to support and create. So, some others are saying that it's going to inspire some kind of incel violence because incels will relate to the Arthur Fleck character, and I can see that. He's a loser. He lives with his mother. He can't get a girlfriend. He's creepy. He has delusions of exceptionalism. He tells himself he's justified in his psychotic behavior. He's entitled to a degree. He kills those dudes on the train because they're harassing a woman, and then they beat his ass. What did he tell Murray Franklin? He killed them because they were awful and couldn't carry a tune. So, yeah, he was a psychotic killer. He murdered people. He killed people. The thing about him as a murderer, though, is he's relatable. He's even likable. He's a good guy, right? He's nuts, but he's just had a tough hand dealt to him. He could get his life together if he just put his nose to the grindstone. Picked himself up by his own bootstraps and did something with himself instead of acting like a clown, right? It's a phase. I don't know how old Joker's supposed to be in it, but he's probably in his 40s, late 30s, maybe early 50s even. Like, he's in a 40-year-old gap. It's really tough to tell. But he's not at the beginning stages of his adult life. Okay, and so he has to contend with the fact that maybe this is his destiny, that there is no free will. He's a product of his environment. Every victim meets their killer halfway, right? That whole idea, that trope that what's that film that explored that? No Country for Old Men, I believe it was. It's kind of like that. I was curious what kind of comic book origin stories smacked with commie criticisms by the likes of Clyde Lewis and Glenn Beck. The timing of this film couldn't be more perfect. It's likely a response to certain aspects of modern American life, art imitating it, or is it the other way around? Maybe it's the cosmic order doing its thing. I don't think that Batman is particularly enlightened, the enlightened side of a psychologically broken individual. These origin stories try to determine who created who. They created each other simultaneously. Like we are God and created ourselves in our own image. God's dead. Okay, we killed him. This film's plot's loosely but faithfully based on Alan Moore's graphic novel, The Killing Joke. The important concept to stay true in doing an origin story to Joker is that the past must be multiple choice. Ledger was true to that every time he changed the story behind his scars. Phoenix is true to it every time his delusion faces off against reality. Joker, in this iteration, doesn't necessarily even have to exist within a comic book universe. The film could actually be so meta as to not even involve the comic at all. Okay, this could be about a fan. This could be fan fiction. It exists outside of the DC comic universe, and it really can't stand on its own. So it's set in Gotham, which is an amalgamation of New York City and Chicago, and it happens around 1981, and there are reasons that we can figure this out. based on some of the current events that are happening in this fictitious world. Okay, so Trump is named Thomas Wayne, and little Baron Trump is named Bruce, and Thomas is running for mayor of Gotham and not for the president of the United States. That's what some folks on the right are speculating is an intentional similarity between our bizarre reality and this fictional one, clown world. Okay, they think it's allegory. Maybe it is, but not for the reasons they think. Before I get too into this film, though, I want to take a minute. I want to talk a little bit about the actual origin story of Joker as Batman's nemesis, the archetype of the clown, the homicidal clown, the evil clown as a trope. Can you think of any other clown villains like Stephen King's It that just came out a couple of weeks ago? Comes to mind. Pennywise, he kills kids and homosexuals. You have the clown, also known as Violator in the Spawn comic. There's Jigsaw from the Saw franchise. There's the Devil's Reject from that Rob Zombie project series, whatever that is. There are really too many. You could go on naming them, even including actual real life serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and Ronald McDonald. By the way, John Wayne Gacy, his clown alter identity, Pogo, and that's the name of the comedy club the Joker performs in. So there's a little nod, whatever, reference to John Wayne Gacy, which is kind of disturbing a little bit to me. So what is it about clowns that we know that isn't explicitly acknowledged and therefore not obvious to us? What do we understand intuitively about clowns? Well, for one, they scrape the bottom of the barrel in the social dominance hierarchy. It's not an occupation of a rational person. Okay, no adult aspires as a young child to be a clown. And if they do, they're quickly vanquished of any idea that the life of a clown is one of esteem or affluence. To make it as a clown generally requires one to trade in your ambitions for fame for infamy. No one really makes it as a clown. Anyone that would choose that as a career is nuts. Okay? Anyone that would subject themselves to that as a line of work probably wouldn't admit it to anyone, that they didn't have to, at least. To strip for a living would be more dignified. Stripping isn't an option for men, though, generally. A clown is one rung above a homeless bum on the social dominance hierarchy. They exist for the sole purpose to be mocked and ridiculed. Flex says as much in his final rant. Murray, who cares about those bankers? I could be dying in the street and you just step right over me. Well, he's right. That's an accurate indictment on humanity. That's reality. Clownery bleeds into our reality, as is the case with juggalos, devotees of the rap group, the Insane Clown Posse. These kids are already rejected by society. They already feel disenfranchised and marginalized. They identify with the deplorable, and they embrace the term and wear it like a badge of honor. They reject elitism, and they perceive liberalism as an expression of elitism. They live in trailer parks. They live with the stigma that includes. That's precisely the psychology of the deplorable. You see how that shit can backfire, if you're paying attention. They're ostensibly folk who don't see a future for themselves. They're condemned by their present. The longer you spend there, the less future you can see or imagine. I mean, really. Imagine putting on a resume that you'd spent the last 2 years working as a clown. How about 10 years? You see what I mean? You insult the people on the bottom tier of the social structure, and you're describing the cause of your collapse, what Hillary Clinton said. You have maggots embracing the chud and deplorable monikers, like you saw the clowns holding signs in protest of Wayne becoming their mayor. Nobody wants to be governed by someone that has blatant contempt for them. And there's more to the clown thing, though. More than what Wayne said in his interview. And that was a plot device to tie one thing to another, really. That's why that was in there. What he said was like, you're all a bunch of clowns. And then you see a bunch of people. It could have been in the news from a year ago. Footage from Portland. No Guy Fawkes masks though. These are all goofy clown masks. But the signs they say the same thing. Resist, um, and we're all clowns. At the very beginning, in the very beginning of this film, one of the first things you see is Joker twirling one of those signs that these sadistic Little Caesars. Around tax time, you'll see it. These people that are paid probably minimum wage to go stand on a corner in front of a business, flipping a sign around, dancing, throwing it in the air, doing the thing. They're doing this thing, a routine, and the work is so pointless and demeaning. Like if you really look at the person that's doing this job, you can just see the desperation, just the pure. They don't want to be there. Nobody in their right mind would. Okay, well he's doing that job, and the sign that he's twirling around says everything must go. Uh, Presumably that's for a business that's going out of business, right? Because that would fit the narrative. But I think that Todd Phillips, I think when he put everything must go on the sign, that he was talking about something a little bit more abstract. Like he's talking about everything, our preconceptions, uh, the ideal, the narratives that form our ideologies. They get thrown into the garbage disposal, into the blender, let's say, because everything that we think of as a trope for the right or left gets mishmashed in this film. So it's impossible to really tell what kind of propaganda it is. You know, I can see why right wingers think it's left wing propaganda, but I can also see why it's not. Like everything's just all the black and white is just gray, and